All right, so you're getting ready for the CCSP exam, huh? That's
Yeah.
awesome. Talk about a valuable certification.
Oh, yeah, definitely valuable.
You've handed us a ton of great material on securing cloud systems, and let me tell you, some of this stuff is really fascinating.
What's fascinating to me is how much CCSP emphasizes like that practical hands-on knowledge. It's
Yeah.
not just theory.
Yeah,
It's about really understanding how to secure systems in the real world.
exactly. So to help you ace that exam, we're going to dive deep into operating system security, malware prevention, all that good stuff.
Yeah, application management, host-based network security.
Oh, yeah. And we'll even touch on a bit of file integrity monitoring.
Absolutely.
Think of this as your cheat sheet to the most important concepts.
Buckle up.
Let's dive in. So first up, let's talk about operating systems.
Okay.
Attackers, they love to exploit vulnerabilities in endpoints
Oh, yeah.
as a way to take down a whole network.
Right.
It's like finding that one loose brick to topple a wall.
It is, and that's why limiting administrative access is so crucial. Okay. The source material, it shows us how to use group policy objects in Windows to lock things down, effectively taking away the attacker's sledgehammer.
Smart move.
Yeah.
And speaking of being smart, what about patch management?
Oh, yeah.
The source material really hammers that home, doesn't it?
It does, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Keeping systems up to date is like having the latest security system in your house.
Right.
It's patching those security holes before the attackers can exploit them. What's really interesting is the source provides step-by-step instructions for patching,
Oh, wow.
both Windows and Linux systems. It even mentions using the apt-get command for Linux, which is a handy tip for anyone used to a Windows environment.
Okay, so it's like having a bilingual guide to security patching.
Exactly.
Now, I've got to ask about that detail in the source material, the one about a Linux server banner showing 71 pending security updates.
Oh.
What kind of trouble could someone be in if they ignore that for too long?
Oh, that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, no.
Ignoring security updates, it leaves systems wide open to known vulnerabilities.
Right.
It's like leaving your front door unlocked and hoping for the best. You're practically inviting attackers.
Definitely not a good idea.
Ah,
So we've talked about limiting access and keeping things patched.
right.
What other gems does the source material have for hardening operating systems?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of system hardening, which is all about stripping down your systems
Okay.
to only the essentials they need to function.
Yeah.
The fewer things installed, the fewer potential attack vectors.
So it's like streamlining a race car.
Yes.
You remove anything that could slow it down.
Exactly.
So what kinds of things are we talking about removing?
Think default accounts and passwords.
Oh, okay.
Those are like low-hanging fruit for attackers.
Yeah.
Disabling them is a simple step, but it can make a huge difference in your overall security posture.
Okay, so we've locked down the operating system.
Right.
But what about those sneaky little programs that try to slip through the cracks? Let's talk about malware. I'm always amazed by the sheer variety of malware out there. Viruses, worms, Trojan horses, spyware. It's like a digital zoo of bad guys.
It really is.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we've got anti-malware solutions to combat them. The source material dives into different detection methods, starting with signature detection.
Okay.
That's like having a fingerprint database for known malware.
Okay.
If the software recognizes a specific code pattern, it knows to quarantine or delete it.
That makes sense. But what about new malware that hasn't been fingerprinted yet?
Right.
That's where heuristic detection comes in, right?
Exactly. Heuristic detection is more behavioral. It looks for suspicious activities like a file trying to modify system settings or connect to a remote server without permission.
Right.
It's like a security guard who's
Yeah.
trained to spot unusual behavior, even if they haven't seen that particular person before.
Okay, that's a great way to explain it. And the source material mentions EDR solutions,
Yeah.
endpoint detection and response. What's so special about those?
EDR solutions. They take things to the next level.
Okay.
They're not just looking for known threats, they're actively monitoring and analyzing endpoint activity
Right.
to detect and respond to sophisticated attacks in real time. They even have these things called sandboxes,
Okay.
where they can run suspicious files in a safe, isolated environment
Interesting.
to see what they do without risking harm to the actual system.
So it's like having a digital quarantine zone.
Exactly.
I like that.
And if a file starts acting shady in the sandbox, the EDR solution can block it from doing any damage to the actual system.
That's incredibly cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of unwanted things, let's not forget about spam. Nobody wants their inbox flooded with junk mail.
No one wants that.
Does the source material offer any insights into how to combat that?
It does. It talks about spam filtering, which is a lifesaver for keeping our inboxes clean. It also mentions how managed email services like Google Apps or Microsoft 365 often come with robust built-in filtering that does a pretty good job of keeping those pesky spam messages at bay.
So it's like having a virtual assistant who sorts through your mail and tosses out the junk.
Precisely.
Okay, cool. And that can save you a lot of time and frustration.
A lot.
All right, we've tackled operating system security and malware prevention. What's next on our CCSP deep dive agenda?
Well, let's talk about application management. It's all about controlling what software can and can't run on your systems,
Okay.
which is crucial for maintaining security and compliance.
I'm all ears. What does the source material have to say about managing applications effectively?
Well, the source material explains two primary approaches, whitelisting and blacklisting. Whitelisting is like having a VIP list.
Okay.
Only approved applications are allowed to run. It's a very strict approach, but can be extremely effective in high-security environments.
So it's like having a very discerning bouncer at the door, only letting in the select few who are on the list.
Exactly. And then there's blacklisting, which is more about keeping out the known troublemakers.
Okay.
You have a list of specific applications or software that are forbidden,
Right.
and the system blocks them from running.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you decide what to blacklist? I mean, there are tons of applications out there.
Well, you can blacklist applications that are known to be malicious or that pose a security risk. You can also blacklist applications that are simply not necessary for business operations.
Oh.
For example, if you don't want employees playing games on company computers,
Right.
you could blacklist gaming applications.
Okay, that makes sense. I noticed that the source material mentions that the terms whitelisting and blacklisting might be on their way out, being replaced by allow list and deny list.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's part of a broader movement in the tech industry to use more inclusive language.
Oh, okay.
The terms whitelist and blacklist can have negative connotations. So many organizations are moving towards more neutral alternatives.
It's a good reminder that language evolves even in the technical world.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about controlling what software can run, but what about monitoring what's actually happening on our systems?
Okay.
The source material mentions application control logs. What's the big deal with those?
Application control logs are incredibly valuable for security analysts. They provide a record of which applications have been run, when they were run, and by whom.
Okay.
This information can be used to detect suspicious activity, investigate security incidents, and even identify potential insider threats.
So it's like having a surveillance camera that records everything happening on your computer.
Precisely. And by analyzing those recordings, you can gain valuable insights into how your systems are being used and identify any potential security issues.
That's really helpful, especially when you're trying to track down the root cause of a security incident.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about the first line of defense when it comes to network security firewalls.
Okay.
What are the key concepts we need to understand about firewalls for the CCSP exam?
Well, firewalls are essentially traffic cops.
Okay.
They enforce the default deny principle,
Right.
which means that any network connection that's not explicitly allowed is blocked. It's like having a strict doorman who only lets in people who are on the guest list.
And the source material explains the difference between network firewalls and host-based firewalls, right?
Exactly. Network firewalls protect the entire network, while host-based firewalls focus on securing individual devices.
So it's like having security guards at the building entrance and then another set of security measures at each individual apartment.
That's a great analogy. And the source material actually walks us through configuring basic firewall rules on both Windows Server and a Linux server in AWS.
Wow.
It's like a mini crash course in firewall setup.
That hands-on approach is super helpful.
Yeah.
I'm sure that kind of practical knowledge will be really valuable on the CCSP exam. And speaking of practical knowledge, the source material also mentions next-generation firewalls. What makes them different from traditional firewalls?
Next-generation firewalls are like firewalls on steroids.
Okay.
They go beyond simply blocking traffic based on ports and protocols. They can actually look at things like user identity application usage and even past behavior to make more intelligent decisions about what to block and what to allow.
So it's like having a firewall that can learn and adapt over time.
Exactly. They can analyze traffic patterns and user behavior to identify potential threats that a traditional firewall might miss.
That's pretty impressive. And the source material mentions intrusion detection and prevention systems, or IDSES. What's their role in network security?
Think of them as the security cameras and guards of your network.
Okay.
IDS systems constantly monitor network traffic for suspicious activity.
Right.
An IDS simply detects and logs suspicious activity,
Okay.
while an IPS can actually take action to block or stop an attack in progress.
So an IDS is like a watchdog that barks when it sees something suspicious, while an IPS is more like a guard dog that can actually bite.
Exactly. They provide an additional layer of protection beyond the firewall,
Mm-hmm.
and they're essential for detecting and responding to more sophisticated attacks that might slip past the firewall's defenses.
All right, we've covered firewalls, IDS, CPS systems. What's next on our list of CCSP security essentials?
Let's talk about a security mechanism that's all about watching for changes, file integrity monitoring.
Okay, that sounds intriguing. I'm picturing a security guard meticulously inspecting every file for any signs of tampering. It makes sense that logs are so valuable. It's one thing to have all these security measures in place, but if you're not paying attention to the data they're generating, you could be missing crucial clues about potential attacks.
Exactly. And that's where those analytical skills we discussed earlier become so important. You need to be able to sift through mountains of data spot anomalies and connect the dots to understand what's really going on.
It's like being a digital detective, piecing together the evidence to solve a cybercrime. And the CCSP exam really emphasizes those analytical skills, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The exam tests your ability to not only understand security concepts, but also to apply them in real-world scenarios. You need to be able to analyze security logs, identify potential threats, and recommend appropriate mitigation strategies.
So it's not just about knowing the technical details. It's about being able to think critically and solve problems using the information you have. And I imagine that those analytical skills are highly sought after in the cybersecurity field.
Oh, absolutely. As cyber attacks become more sophisticated, organizations need security professionals who can not only implement security controls, but also analyze the data they produce to identify and mitigate risks effectively.
It's like having a security team that can not only build the defenses, but also understand the enemy's tactics and strategies.
Precisely. And the source material does a fantastic job of emphasizing this crucial aspect of cybersecurity. It highlights how important it is to have a deep understanding of logging and analysis techniques to be truly effective in this field.
So for anyone studying for the CCSP exam, don't just focus on the technical details. Make sure you're also spending time developing your analytical skills,
Right.
practice analyzing security logs, research different attack vectors, and think critically about how attackers might try to exploit vulnerabilities.
Great advice. And remember, cybersecurity is a constantly evolving field. New threats emerge all the time, and security professionals need to stay ahead of the curve.
It's like being a lifelong student, always eager to learn and grow. But that's what makes cybersecurity so exciting. It's a field where you're constantly challenged to think critically, adapt to new situations, and push the boundaries of your knowledge.
Well said. So as you prepare for the CCSP exam, embrace that challenge, dive deep into the source material, and never stop learning.
Great advice. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of CCSP exam prep. You've gained valuable insights into operating systems security, malware prevention, application management, network security, and file integrity monitoring. But remember, it's not just about memorizing facts. It's about understanding the concepts, applying them in real-world scenarios, and developing the analytical skills to become a true cybersecurity professional.
And as you continue your studies, keep in mind that this field is all about protecting valuable assets and ensuring the security and integrity of our digital world. It's a challenging but rewarding path, and we wish you the best of luck on your CCSP journey.
And remember, always stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop learning. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.